bring you up. Oh! Do you want to be on the left side or the right side? Yeah. Either way, this looks good, I think.
Mm.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is a very special Course of Miracles call. I'm really excited to share this space. Can you guys hear? Everyone hear okay? Mic check. All right, just mute out if you can. So I'm really excited to share this with you. This is a dear friend of mine, Samsara. She's in this space with us. You guys have seen her on the calls, but she's just a really good friend of mine, and I actually had the privilege of getting a chance to officiate her wedding. And she's got a ton of wisdom when it comes to the Vedic teachings and astrology. Last week, actually, she did my reading when she came to stay with us here in Las Vegas, and I was just really blown away. And so for me, I've been studying A Course in Miracles for a really long time, and I just, a lot of times I see A Course in Miracles in everything, but there's something about the way that she explained everything to me that kind of brought like harmony of like our inner and outer world, like heaven and earth and the yin and the yang together. And so I feel really blessed to be able to, share this with you guys. And Samsara, if you can just, share and introduce yourself a little bit, and where did you learn the teachings and all of that. So yeah, if you can just kind of quickly introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. First of all, thank you, Alex, for just the opportunity to come into this space and to share a little bit of my light. And so astrology, my journey with astrology started probably 20 years ago. And many of you are probably familiar with what we call tropical Western astrology. And it was a way for me to familiarize myself with just certain nuances and essences of certain characteristics, right? And when I went into Vedic astrology, Vedic is definitely much more clinical because it follows the lunar cycles, and so there's more accuracy in terms of the degree in which it's landing on, like the certain planetary alignment, the planets, the astrological placements. And in Vedic astrology, it's considered the science of light. And it's called that mainly because it's the light of awareness. And the more I dive into astrology, the more blown away I am, because it just continues to zoom in on what you think is a certain energy. But when you go closer into it, I get to see what the evolution of that energy is and where that current placement is within a soul's journey. And so I found Vedic astrology probably about 6 years ago. It took me just by shock by receiving my own reading from a Vedic astrologer in India. He was able to predict with such accuracy certain things that I don't tell people, or not even my closest family members knew about me. And I was just like, okay, I need to like rest and digest this. And each time that I rested and digested on it, it was just me studying astrology. And I was like, oh, wow. So, yeah. So I've been working with a teacher and also realms of like my own self-study for the last 2 years more intensively.
Yeah. I feel like as you were doing my reading, and I'm actually going to have her share my reading with you guys on this call at some point, but as you were reading it, there was a lot of things that I realized was the astrology and the reading you were doing, and Vedic teachings, I guess, as I'm doing some research on it too, it kind of helps us understand our like patterns, right? And then like what is the things that can help dissolve our karma. And
Mhm.
when we say dissolve our karma, I feel like in A Course in Miracles we talk about forgiveness and letting go of the past so that a new reality can exist, right? A new reality that is joined with the divine or with God and with the essence truly of who we are can be realized, the self actualization, like the process of it. And so, as you were sharing with me, I know there are, I would love for you to go a little, add the Vedic flavor to this, like dissolving of the karma and forgiveness, right? Because I feel like it's very similar, and understanding like how do we break free from these patterns. The course says like the ego throws us into patterns, right? The ego throws us into patterns, and we seem to not be able to get out of it until we're able to remove the energies around those things. So like our past stories and our traumas and the things that we think that we can't get away from. We keep learning those same things over and over until like we finally remove the energies from it, so that we can see the light in it instead of seeing like constantly the darkness in it. So yeah, if you can just go a little bit into, you know, what the Vedic teachings talk about when it comes to dissolving of karma.
Yeah. So with Vedic astrology, so I'm under the system of what you call Jyotish. And the Jyotish astrology views the birth chart as a map of an individual's karmic blueprint. And just wherever that lands, depending on your birth date, your time, and the place in which you were born, all the stars and the planets were aligned in a certain way. Those planetary positions and the houses that they're in reveal past karmas and how they influence certain things like challenges and blessings. So, areas where karmic lessons need to be resolved or where you can allow grace to come in, because some of what we experience, it could be from the actions of this lifetime, but it also could be stuff that's unexplainable and unresolved from another lifetime. And so we just
Mm.
have to allow whatever that karmic residue to come and pass and allow grace, as you were mentioning earlier, that we might not be able to have control over, but we do have control over our own responses, and
Mm.
that's how we can uh, resolve karma. And it also reveals a lot of what you probably may have heard as dharma, so your soul's purpose or duty in this lifetime, and other life circumstances.
What does
And
it say
actually,
about dharma? So like, what is our purpose? Like, is there
it's it's your, so let's say you are born with certain circumstances in this lifetime. Actually, I'm going to use the example of the Bhagavad Gita. How many people here have ever read the story of the Bhagavad Gita? Actually, I can't even see from my screen. Okay, well, I'll just do a quick summary of
yeah.
the Bhagavad Gita. So it's an epic tale about a warrior, a prince, and in this current period of time, there's a great war that is about to ensue, and this prince feels, his name is Arjuna. He's feeling very conflicted because in who he's fighting against, he's like, I'm going to be fighting my own uncle or the teachers that I've been with. Like, I don't want to be involved in this because I'm going to be hurting people that I love. And as he's contemplating about this, he's literally on a chariot ride on his way to the war. And he's like, I want a GTFO and not be involved in this whatsoever. However, the charioteer that's driving the chariot somehow just turns around and turns blue, and he becomes an incarnated form of Krishna, who is a divine being and reincarnate of Vishnu. And he just starts dropping not like wisdom and knowledge on the spot to Arjuna. And he basically just says, the war has already happened. Like, when I think about Vedic astrology, everything is already written in the stars. You're gonna have to go through this war, like one way or another. And Arjuna just, you know, he's curious, but he's resistant to it. And in the result of this epic, Dharma, it's a tale of Dharma, is right action. So he, in that lifetime, is a trained and very skilled warrior. You know, this is what he's good at. He doesn't want to go to war and use his skills. And so basically, Krishna is just kind of enlivening him that this is his dharma and that he must fight and that everything has already happened. And so it's, to me, it's like, okay, I'm in these current circumstances. What is right action for me that aligns with my soul's purpose?
Mm. So
Mhm.
it's basically like we are already, our functions are already set, our purpose is already set. And so we get to just fulfill it. And the alignment of our our will and or of the divine will, right? Like whatever is preset on God's will is really the only function is to align those two things to make sure that there's no resistance to those. And I think with all there's so many things that pull us away from that, right? The course says that our function literally is to be and shine the light onto the world, or actually the way we shine the light onto the world could be in this context to allow others to fulfill their purpose, to shine the light, to allow them and give them the courage and the confidence to be whatever gift is that they're supposed to be, so that they can wake up to to that calling. Because for me, it might be teaching a Course in Miracles. For you, it might be, doing the Vedic teachings and all the other, healing things that you do. And then for somebody else, it might be real estate, right? Like there is just a lot of ways in which we contribute to the awakening of the collective consciousness. And yeah, so I love to just go, talk about like because in order to overcome a lot of these things, the course says we have to see what's an illusion and what's not, right? So what pulls us and what draws away from things. So it's really about transcending or dissolving the illusions. And I know in the Vedic teachings they have, like, they talk about Maya, right, which is kind of like the illusions of everything. So how do you how can we, or maybe you can just talk a little bit more or add on to that.
In regards to illusion and also just the name in general, like, I'm Samsara. I don't know how many of you guys know what Samsara even means.
Yeah.
So Samsara in Sanskrit means the cycle of birth, life, and death. And that you can scale that from a microcosm and also on the grander scale of things. And that in and of itself, I'm careful of the word using illusion. It is just sort of the law of nature that we are in, but it's illusionary in the sense that we can't attach to it. And that when we do have that sort of attachment, it influences our decision making and karma, instead of letting life to just flow through you. It can have those types of karmic consequences when there is that type of attachment. But the way that I like to see it, especially when I'm looking at a chart, is that I almost like look at the sky and I see these dials that are layered and they're turning. And it's like almost these little puzzle pieces of energies that are influencing us, these astrological bodies, these grahas, or in Sanskrit, the planets. And actually, this is so auspicious because we're talking about astrology right now, and I don't know if any of you guys know, but there's a huge planetary alignment happening. Yes, Tassanova knows. There's a planetary parade that started yesterday where we can actually see four planets in the sky that are in almost complete alignment with Earth right now.
Whoa.
And so you can view that. So if you guys take some time to go look at the sky and see Venus and Mars and Saturn, and I can't remember the other planet, but they're in alignment now. So it's interesting. Um, yeah, so I see these dials that are kind of turning and sharing just like different patterns, and you intuitively read from that. But so, how do we release ourselves from samsara, or the cycle of birth, life, and death, through the lens of Vedic astrology, through the lens of karma? So, karma in the Jyotish definition, and I'll give this because some people have this kind of superficial view of what karma is, where it's like, oh, this is bad karma, this is good karma, and that's like a very like rudimentary view of that. But it's basically the law of cause and effect.
Mm.
So every action, physical, mental, or emotional, it generates energy that shapes our current and future experiences. So it's not about punishment, the way, people are like, oh, karma's going to come back around. It's not about punishment or reward, but about the natural consequences of actions and what's guiding the soul's evolution across time. So there are actually like several different types of karma, and I'm going to read them off to you. So there's what you call sanchita karma, which is accumulated karma from all the past. Then there's uh, prabharda karma, which is the portion of karma that is currently being experienced in this lifetime. And then there's kriyamana karma, which is created by the actions of this present moment. And then agami karma, which is the future karma resulting from the current actions. So there's
Mm.
several different lenses here of how we can, I guess, see or even look into how we can influence the way that we move about in samsara. Um, and you were mentioning earlier, Alex, just about like, let's say from Sanchita karma, so results from a past life experience. I was mentioning earlier that there could be certain challenges that are experienced in this lifetime, and there's nothing you can do to prevent that event from happening. And basically, what is the right action to do in that moment is actually just to surrender. It's teaching you grace and allow it to move through in that way. And sometimes when it comes to karma, or even in the view of samsara, it's like, wow, do I have any, is this destiny? Like, do I have no free will whatsoever to act on the circumstances that are happening?
Mm.
And it's a little mix of like destiny and will, because there are things you can do like to neutralize your karmas if you can be aware, like if you can shed light into certain places, and you can again decide how you respond. So like if you allow a certain challenging event to happen and just surrender into it, then that teaches you grace. Then there's also certain karmas that you can work through just by chanting to a certain mantra or having a specific ritual. For example, like when I was reading Alex's chart, I was looking at, okay, what planet has the most influence on him, or his ruling soul planet in the highest degree, all pointed to Jupiter. So, and it makes so much sense because of the spaces that he's in, right? Jupiter is the archetypal planet that represents expansion and knowledge and wisdom. It's what brings like the most opportunities when you're in that energy. And so, what will help neutralize his karma in regards to this planet? So Jupiter's day is actually Thursday, and the color is yellow. And I was like, okay, so maybe what you can do is wear the color yellow or even orange on Wednesday or on Thursday. And because Jupiter is about expansion and the learning of new things, I was like, okay, one ritual you can do is also to learn something new every Thursday. And that is like a small influence that could help neutralize karma in that sense.
Yeah, I will. So this neutralizing of karma. So you talk. So karma has to do with cause and effect, and you also mentioned that, sometimes you feel like there's no. Is it all shaped already? Right? Has it already happened? Is it all done? And this is really interesting. That this is. I think. So, for me personally, as I'm listening to all of this, right, there is a 3D world that we're in. And this is, I think, the conversation we've had for the last couple of weeks leading to this, which is so perfect. We're talking about heaven and earth and how do we keep truth in the back of our mind and still be able to operate in the world here today, right? And so I feel like these teachings and astrology and everything really shows us a way in which the world that we live in actually is synergized, right? And there is patterns and there are things that it just is. And we can't change it. We can only surrender into it. That's why the Course says free will does not mean you can determine the curriculum, right? The curriculum or the outcome of things that already is. The only thing that you have in your free will is determine how much you're willing to accept at any given time. How much you're willing to let in. So the Course basically says your free will is your choice every single moment between choosing to align with this collective movement already, right? This entire collective of all humans and planets and everything that God has created. It's moving. You can choose to the only thing that you can. So let me put it this way: like, you are moving regardless, but you can resist in your mind and you can experience resistance by not wanting to move or thinking you should move in a different direction, or determine this is how I'm going to dissolve my karma rather than this is what you should be doing. All right. So the Course actually says the past is over. It can touch me not. And unless I choose to use it to imprison myself, the past is gone. Right. So like the Course talks about breaking free from all of this stuff, being able to rise above. But we are in our body and we do have this experience and that we are here. And so the Course actually has the Holy Spirit will remember heaven for you. You're here. So you play your game, but your game is whether you can resist and whether you can surrender and find peace in navigating your life through your patterns and through dissolving your karma or whatever it is, right? And the lessons that you need to learn in order to dissolve the karma, or you can resist it and fight it and have an experience of fear, pain, anxiety, mistrust, doubt, all of those things that come up. So yeah, I love that these two are coming together. We've been talking about heaven and earth, and I really feel like there is, it's actually helping me lock in and understand the Course a little bit more. That the Course says that it is a course in miracle, right? One course. There are millions of courses, and including what Samsara is sharing with us here today. It's everything leads to the same place. Everything leads us home, is what the Course says. Like, all of this helps us identify our patterns. And it can help us understand our life a little bit better and the choices that we make, and that we actually have the opportunity to dissolve these karmic things that are, whether it's from past life or from our actions in this life or from, our actions now that goes into the future. It is about like all of this leads us to heaven. We will all end up at heaven's gates, and we will return back home, to where everything is one. So, yeah, I love to, maybe talk a little bit about how people can have maybe like a spiritual awakening. Um, I feel like for me, I've always had this a little bit of resistance to like, well, if I start focusing on astrology and the things of this world and the body and all of that, then I'm starting to make this real and then heaven is gone. But it's kind of like we aren't there right now, anyways. Like spiritually, yes, we haven't gone anywhere, but we are playing in this realm. So, how do we understand this realm while still knowing that heaven and God is there as like the truth of all things, So yeah, I kind of had that spiritual awakening, just like, and the awakening was so simple. It was just like shifting from my judgment around it to like, whoa, I can fully embrace this and actually see A Course in Miracles in it, which is really, really powerful for me. And, probably in like the next 10 minutes or so, I would love for you to share my reading with everybody as well, so that we can, like, it was just so epic. I feel like everyone gets to hear it. But we do have some questions, and if you want to share anything before the questions, yeah, to what I just said.
Yeah, just talking about like going back to your question about how one becomes spiritual, or even connecting to what I like to call the capital T truth.
Yeah.
So there's many different kinds of truths there, but when we come into that realization and connecting to things spiritually, and understanding that we do come from the same source, that is the capital T truth.
Hmm.
And so how does one start that journey? Actually, what I like about astrology is that it clearly shows we are exactly where we need to be in this moment, and that we are already on the way to exactly where our soul is longing to be. And eventually that does lead to that capital T truth, that we are in that oneness. And
Yeah.
so really what it is that it doesn't require much seeking, unless it is in your karma that you are an investigator and you are seeking. But really what it is patience.
Hmm.
It's super simple. Just patience. And I think it's nice to have A Course in Miracles, Vedic astrology, whatever path you are called to, is maybe we understand these spiritual sciences, or we get into ceremony work because it's a way for us to remember to be patient, and also how to stay aligned with our values and even our own purpose. So when
Hmm.
we are in the so it's so funny. I'm going to pull in just a little bit of Andean cosmology, which to me relates a lot to Vedic teachings. So in Andean cosmology, they also believe in three worlds. There's the Ukupacha, the Kaipacha, and the Hananpacha. The Ukupacha is the underworld realms. It's represented by the animal of the snake. It's the yet to be manifested and the unconscious. And then the realm that we're in right now is Kaipacha, which in Andean cosmology is the hardest realm to be in, because we're in duality, right? We're
Hmm.
always experiencing the tensions of opposites, and it's pulling us in different directions. And then, of course, when you reincarnate again in the Andean cosmology, then you're in Hanan Pacha, which is like the eagle. You're overlooking everything from a bird's eye view, and you're in the heavens in that way. And then you just continue going in that cycle over and over again. And the reason why I bring up the worlds from Andean cosmology, well, number one, this is how we met. I met Alex in Peru. So, like, this is where those teachings come from, alongside with Lisa and Casanova, who've been in Peru. So, I wanted to acknowledge those systems. But being in Kaipacha is difficult. And actually, the way, I guess, in Andean cosmology that you, so to speak, neutralize karma is actually through ritual. It's important to be in spaces of ceremony. It's important to be in spaces of honoring the sacred in that way, so you can a recognize that you are in a space of duality, and like ceremony and doing ritual is the work, right? um and like, relating it back to Vedic astrology, yeah, like we just this is a hard realm to be in, but if we can remind ourselves through whatever spiritual sciences of light,
Mm.
it helps us stay connected to that capital T truth, and also understand things are not just as what they seem. They're not just like the superficial appearances of how things are presenting themselves. There are veils, and that's why it's really good to why people choose to be on a spiritual path, because it helps them connect with the unseen.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take some questions real quick and then we'll kind of come right back to it. I have some comments I want to make about that too. But okay, hey Lisa.
Hey, so not really a
Wait,
question, but
Samsara,
a
can you
share
hear her?
kind of express.
Maybe turn up the volume a little bit more.
Turn my volume up?
No, I got it. I got it.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Great. So I wanted to share that, in the beginning of my awakening journey, the first thing that came to me was meditation and learning about oneness, monthly meetups, okay? And then came astrology and new moon women's circles. And so I would go to these, circles as I'm understanding oneness and, all these different beautiful traditions around the world that I had never heard of before, maybe 15 years ago. And these different like paths of knowledge, and getting it from early days, like Abraham Hicks, and learning about manifestation, and then eventually Matt Kahn, and then eventually this last year being here with Alex in A Course of Miracles, and being next to my best friend who is very deep in A Course of Miracles for the last 15 years, as she's been giving me nuggets along the way. And what I find with astrology, like based on everything else, it's like all of these understandings and learnings that I'm learning about the universe and God and self. In astrology, it's like specific to me. It's specific. So in these new moon, opportunities, I would get a new moon reading, which was like 15 minutes max, about what in the next month I could potentially be facing. And so when I understood that about like, oh, in this next month, there might be somebody coming at me that I could get triggered with, and how do I want to respond? It just like gave me a little, preemptive, hey, there might be a trigger coming. You can kind of like shift out of the way and not make it so personal, because it is just what is meant to be in this time. Let me tell you, the amount of like aggregation and arguments that I did not face because I was giving this to myself. And then eventually I learned how to receive a trigger, and it's not to get like all personal and backed up if I can help it, right? Like just like taking the moment to like really feel like, what is this for me? And then is there someone I need to speak to, get in through, right? And not keep it in my head and keep the wheel spinning and all of that. So I just want to share how beautiful this is to like bring two different practices in the same conversation for me to really like see that, I wouldn't have had that awareness if it weren't for the both of you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Fraser.
Hello, hello. Wonderful. I'm actually super stoked about this conversation because I just had my Akashic Records reading done yesterday, and it was so enlightening. And one of the things it talked about was karmic healing of past life trauma. And I wanted now, because of what Samsara has said, I'm like, ooh, I think I want to get a reading done from her as well, because I think that could amplify that healing process. So when it comes to that, like I do have a direction kind of already in that I'm going to be talking to with my beautiful friends Adam and Claudia. But I would love to know your take on that karmic healing of past lives, samsara.
Yeah, so it's pretty multi-layered in that sense, and a lot of chart reading before it gets into the future aspects. Or sometimes when people come to readings to me, they're like, oh, I want to kind of have like a projected next 3 months or a year, like what to expect in these certain areas of my life. But even before we jump into that, it's like, okay, so what karmas do need to be resolved from past lifetimes. And there are some real, I look at different aspects of that depending on which area we're going to be looking into. Like, for example, like looking at our north node, south node, K2, so on and so forth, will tell me a lot about past life karma. And when you're resolving past life karma, again, it's very similar how we work through the current chart. It's just sort of having the light of awareness of it and just sort of seeing its role and its place from that time and allowing it to move through like, let's say Saturn has a huge influence. Saturn is a very karmic planet. It's um, you experience a lot of delays and challenges and certain things like that. And the way you resolve past life karma in relation to the energy of that type of planet is actually you'll get through it through perseverance and discipline, you know. So there are multi layers of how you can resolve it depending on the planetary and astrological alignments that you have. But yeah, I would love to do a session with you. We'll definitely talk more about how you guys can contact me later to do a very specific reading geared
Yeah, it's
towards
epic. It's epic. Okay, we'll take one last question real quick, Jamal.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question. How come is it that I'm able to observe other people's energy, and it affect me for the moment, but after a while I'm able to get through that energy. I'm able to observe the energy, and it'll last me for like maybe a week or two. And why is it that it don't really affect me after? It only affect me at the moment.
Do you want to answer that through? Do you want me to answer that?
You can go first, and then I
Okay.
can
And
share.
I wanted to say one more thing. How come is it that everything you said I already knew? I have no prior knowledge of this, like at all. But everything you said, it was exactly what I realized. It, like I knew in my head, something like somebody was telling me in my head everything you was telling me as I was going down the road.
Yeah.
And then
So
Oh,
I
I-
realized it was perfect.
so here's from A Course in Miracles perspective, right? So A Course in Miracles perspective is that we are born in truth. All right. So we are born as an extension of God, and our function first is to become aware and remember what that is. And the remembering means we knew once before, right? So everything that you hear, when you hear things that are truth, right, with the capital T, like Samsara was talking about, you can feel it inside. There is a knowing. It's not like I need to dissect it, understand it. Sometimes you do, but there is a knowing inside when you're around the frequency of the conversation of truth. You know, so when you hear it, it's not heard with the filters of the ego. It's heard really through this remembering. You know, so the course is like, this is the beginning of training our intuition, is to continue to practice and follow when our heart tells us that, when we can truly hear truth. And let me go all in right here. You know, let me explore what the highest purpose of this is, because it's obviously calling to me. And that calling is, there's a knowing deep inside to what this person is saying. that means I should probably explore a little bit more and be around this person a little bit more, so that the truth may be, because this person is in truth, they automatically shine a light onto yours, and you're able to borrow the light with no, there's no taking that is necessary, because the light doesn't require any energy to be able to share that light, right? So as Samsara is sitting and talking and speaking from her truth, and connected to the truth with a capital T, we can hear it. But the moment the ego comes in and all this stuff, we can also feel that too. And then from our side, we just feel this resistance, oh, wait, But also, the first question was, how come I can feel other people's energies and it doesn't affect me later, but affects me in the moment? It's because we are not grounded in that moment. And it comes to us, it gives it, when we experience it and then we let it go later, it's because we have a chance to be with it. And this is why the Course says it's important. Also, Vedic teachings and all teachings actually says in quietness that you can hear a little bit more, right? So if we act to that energy, to whatever comes, it's longer for us to be able to kind of dissolve that, or the Course calls forgive it and let it go. Because we've now created action, and that action requires the ego's defense, and then it's more work to undo. So the Course says everything is about atonement. The atonement is the undoing of the things that you're doing that is kind of off course. So actually, the highest frequency of what we should be doing is doing nothing, the Course says. I need do nothing because, first of all, there are so many things going on that past life, present life, future life, this dimension, that dimension, we have zero idea how any of our actions are affecting everything else. So the only thing we really can do is say, here, God, I know you created this, so you resolve this, right? I don't really need to resolve it. I just have to play my part, which is just to follow along and, align my will to your will. And what is that will? That will is that all of the children, or the child, or the one child, right, of God returns home, which is all of us as a collective, in that remembering. So I feel in the Vedic teachings as well is how do we navigate through the patterns and all the things in our life so that we can actually break from all of that and remember the truth of who we are and our purpose, so that we can do our purpose and completely be in our dharma, or our purpose. So yeah, that's my response to that. And so Samsara, I'd love to hear yours.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it was Jamal from my screen.
Yes.
I lit up when you said that. And the reason why you know these things is because you've done this before. At least that's how I've always met people on the path, and how I was called to this. It's why do I know this already? And it seems that there was some spiritual energy, probably in past lifetimes, that have been built that have blessed you into coming into this remembrance. And that's a sign to continue to be on a path of, whatever spiritual calling that it is. And, there are several layers as to how you can read people's energy and also feel it in the present moment. One layer is that we actually all have the capability of that. We're very empathetic beings. And it's interesting being in this age of technology, and it comes with its different blessings and things like that. But sometimes we're experiencing this separation, and we forget, we are empathetic beings, and we can feel what other people are feeling. And that's a gift and a tool for me to help the collective. But I really like what you said, Alex, and it's the similar practice of what we do in Vedic practice, or yogic practice, actually, in ritual, is well, first, when you are reading someone's energy and you are feeling, or maybe absorbing what they are feeling, it is good to be present in that current moment. But there is and this relates to Alex's reading, there is a practice in which we need to actively cleanse ourselves of people's energy, you know. And when I was looking at Alex's reading, like a lot of his element is fire. Like his whole purpose here is just to purify. So that's why he's able to continuously do his work, and he's not attaching or holding on to things, because that's how karma is generated. It's attaching to a certain outcome. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of ties between ACIM in the perspective of that. It's like, here's the instruction manual of how you can do that. And then Vedic astrology is like, here's what to look at on your map, you know? So,
And I think it's
yeah.
important that our mind, like you were saying, in this world, in this realm, because of the duality, the pull of the polar opposites, like we tend to want to think right now of this polar opposites, of wait, is it one or the other? But how can we see it as whole, right? How can we see it as it's exactly the same thing and saying the same thing? Words were used. Words are symbols trying to point to something, pointing to something else. So we're really trying to like understand these words, but we have the knowing of this something else. So it's like me looking at Samsara pointing at the moon, but I'm looking at her and trying to explain the moon. But I remember the moon, right? Inside, I remember the moon. So if she's talking about the moon, I can resonate with it. But if I'm just looking at what she's pointing at, like I just see her pointing to something, but I don't see the moon. So kind of like when I think about all of these teachings, from all around the world, everything, there is just, it's symbols pointing to something, but there's a knowing inside of what it's pointing at already, right? So instead of judging how Samsara is pointing at the moon, we just look for the truth of what she's saying about the moon, right? And so that's how I see like bringing it together. It's not one or the other, and it's actually the way I look at everything in life, or I try to. I practice that, and yeah, I would love to like hear more. I guess share with everyone like the readings that you did for me, and yeah, if you can do that, it'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
I gotta pull up your chart.
Yeah.
So I was with Alex in Love just this past week, and somehow we got into this discussion about reading charts. And when I got when we were talking, I was like, "Wow, you guys are exactly where you need to be at right now. Like it's already been done, so you can just be patient and see how things will unfold." So, just a raise of hands. How many of you practice astrology or a form of astrology? Maybe it's like tropical, Western. Okay. So we have all of these different celestial bodies in the sky that influence us, and I'm only going to touch on just a few here. But maybe what I'll do is I'll kind of compare it to tropical Western astrology, which is what a lot of people are familiar with. So when I was looking at Alex's chart, the first place that I like to look at is the moon sign. In tropical Western astrology, there's a lot of emphasis on the sun. But in Vedic astrology, they place a lot of emphasis on the moon and the ascendant sign because it has a lot to do with our karmas. The moon actually represents from the teachings that I received as your cause of birth. And actually, even before, sorry, I forgot to do this, Alex. Before I even read your chart, I just have to do a silent prayer just to call in a line of protection. So let me just do that for like uh, 10 seconds. Okay. So yeah, and also every time I read someone's chart, there's very specific mantras and just line of protection because there's yeah, just these subtle energies that we're working with, and we want to make sure that it's um, benevolent and supporting your growth. So, yeah, as I was saying, the moon represents your cause of birth. And what's so cool is that in Vedic astrology, we still use the same 12 zodiac signs from Aries all the way to Pisces. But what's cool about the Vedic system is that it gets even more clinical. If you zoom into one sign, let's say you look at the sign of Aquarius, Vedic astrology is like, what kind of Aquarius? Because there's different degrees in which Aquarius could be. Is it more Capricorn type of Aquarius, or is it going to be more Pisces type of Aquarius? And even in those degrees, there are very, very specific essences to that expression. And in Vedic astrology, we call them nakshatras. So it's also expressed as lunar mansions because the moon travels and shows its light around each of those expressions of the zodiac sign. And so when I was looking at Alex's, okay, his moon sign is in Aries, but and in every zodiac sign there are 2.5 nakshatras.
We can't hear her anymore, Alex.
Oh, sorry. Can you still hear her? Wait, now?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Hello?
When he muted, we couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I was coughing. Okay, go ahead. Good. Thank you.
Okay. So the expression of Aries that he has is in the nakshatra of Kritika. So Kritika is known as the star of fire, and it's actually exalted in this placement. So in Kritika, it helps you remove negativity in your life, as long as you are in right thought, thinking, and attitude. Now, what's super cool about looking at nakshatras is that every nakshatra has a superpower or a shakti, a secret desire, and a result of what the superpower and the desire does. So in Alex's moon sign or cause of birth, he has the superpower of burning or to burn or purify, to sever ties with the corporal, the body, which makes a lot of sense. And to me, what that says is that there's probably some spiritual energy from past lifetimes of what we call in Vedic teachings tapas. Tapas is like when you do ritual practice or spiritual practice, and it creates this spiritual energy or aura that helps protect you or burn and purify things. So it's interesting that there's residue from that, and it's continuing from this lifetime to separate from the material, from the corporal. So that's the superpower of his moon nakshatra. And then the secret desire, and it speaks in metaphors here, is to be the eater of foods for the gods. So whatever he consumes is an act of worship towards divine energies. So the result of his superpower combined with this desire of the nakshatra, or how his soul is leading him, is burning and purification. And so what does that mean when we talk about the realms of karma and what neutralizes karma? There are things that are very favorable to his karma, or what neutralizes karma. And then there are things that are unfavorable for karma. So it's important, at least to this blueprint, that Alex is involved with ceremonial or symbolic fire rituals, which is so funny because he's always at the fire and he's like going to Burning Man, and that's a huge fire ritual. It also says that to neutralize his karma, it's important for him to be in a place of leadership or practicing effective executive skills. Creative crafts and musical expression, which, you know, Alex has delved into a lot of music these days and playing different instruments, engaging in discussions and debates helps neutralize his karma. Um, what else is there? Embracing honesty and open communication helps him neutralize his karma. And this is totally like at the base of his uh, personality, as we know. Like he can't be dishonest about anything. Um, and then another thing that would help neutralize is culinary artistry and cooking mastery. So
Oh
we
man.
like me and Love and Alex. I was like, wow, like, can you picture like Chef Alex like making delectable meals? Um, so yeah, there are these things that help bring about good karma or neutralize any negative karma.
Wait,
Things that
Pause real quick. So, for me, I'm like, man, there are so many things I'm resistant to. Right? Like cooking is one of them. There was just like resistance to it, and I feel like part of this like dissolving of the karma is like I just need to change my relationship to those things, And as I change, and so the next day I like cooked and everything, and I made my world famous sandwich, and um, you know, for everyone. And I actually really enjoyed it. I think I actually really enjoyed cooking. I think there's just like this laziness to like learn something new and go do it. But I do. I kind of enjoy it. And maybe there is also like, because I loved like, there is this like favorable thing to cooking. And then I go and open up two restaurants and it literally just give me PTSD around it. So I hate cooking. But now like, okay, this is actually a way that I'm supposed to dissolve that karma to actually practice what the Course calls forgiveness to those things. The forgiveness is to remove the energetic attachments to those things that I believe are holding me back. Right. So, yeah. Okay. Continue.
And what's so funny is as you brought up laziness, it says unfavorable activities is resting. You got to keep going. And it's interesting because we are in a culture right now that's like, prioritize self-care and resting, and actually self-care looks very different for different kinds of people and energetic types. Maybe it isn't I mean, rest is important, like definitely get some sleep, but maybe you are fulfilled or you have your battery filled up through action, through doing something inspirational, or you're starting and initiating projects, things like that. So it's just funny that you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to cook because like all these things. But yeah, it says having rest is unfavorable. If
Well,
you're resting too.
the course says that the rest that we're looking for is not in sleep; it's in awakening. So there you
Oh,
go. That's what the course actually says. The rest that we're looking for is not in sleep, but in awakening.
yeah. And it's so funny too because you know how what's favorable for Alex is to engage in fire ritual, and then it says here for her if you'll amplify your karma, or it's unfavorable for your karma if you engage in water. So it's so interesting. And water in Vedic teachings actually does represent the body. Earth and water represents the corporal. And when we actually do ritual, for example, as offering, sometimes we acknowledge all the elements. And so we give offerings to earth, which is the body, water, which is like you're going from earth to space. So it's like almost like a dissolving from earth to the heavens. And then in some ritual, you go from the heavens to the earth. So it's you're more in the ethers.
Yes, I'm always trying to leave my body. Later, guys. Later. Bye.
Bye. So yeah, that's just like a small taste of the reading of what looking at your moon sign is. And what's so funny is when you're in India, which is where these teachings are based from, there are some temples they'll ask you, "What's your moon sign?" or "When were you born?" And they'll be like, "Actually, you shouldn't go to this temple. This is not the deity that will help you resolve karma. You need to go to this one. That's for your blueprint. Go to this one over here." So it's important to understand, what is our cause of birth? How do I neutralize certain things by working with this type of expression of the divine? So that's moon sign. And then when we look at ascendant, so Ascendant sign in tropical astrology is, or Western astrology is known as like how people view you or as first impressions. But in the ascendant sign in Vedic astrology, it's actually your North Star. So someone was asking a question earlier about how do I heal past life karma things. Sometimes I also look at the ascendant sign and oh yeah, is Fraser, I don't know.
Fraser Laser.
Ask that question. And sometimes I look at the ascendant sign because it's our North Star. I like to use the representation that, so in an Indian wedding ceremony, in some Indian wedding ceremonies, there's a ritual of there's like a fire pit in the middle, and like the husband and the wife walk around the fire pit 13 times. The fire pit itself represents the cycle of samsara, birth, life, and death. And the husband is leading the wife around it. So the moon sign in that representation is the wife, and then the husband is the ascendant sign. It's leading it out of samsara. So his ascendant sign is an Aquarius, but the expression of Aquarius, or the nakshatra that it's in, is called Shatabhishak nakshatra, which means the 100 stars. And having this sign means that there is a tendency to be secretive or very private. And one of the ways to neutralize the karma is actually to be open. To be open, so that way you can rid yourself of loneliness or isolation, which can be a tendency in the sign. So this nakshatra has also its superpower and its desire. So the superpower that, or the Shakti that this nakshatra carries, is the power to heal and support. And the secret desire of this nakshatra is to be firm and not unsteady. And when you combine the superpower and the desire of those things, you have the result of what Alex produces naturally, which is to free the world of calamity. So you're really here to like, you're here to
Little
just,
tasks.
yeah.
It's Monday things, you know.
A Sunday thing that we're doing right now.
Sunday thing, exactly.
Sunday and Wednesday thing. You're just
Yeah.
freeing the world of calamity. Which is what I was saying earlier. This is what the stars say. You're exactly where you need to be right now. So, what are ways in which he can neutralize this type of karma? Because if you are here to help heal and support it, you can absorb a lot. And luckily, you have the exalted moon sign in Kritika, which helps you to burn impurities. So, luckily, you're not carrying on to stuff too much. But here are more additional things that help you in neutralizing your karma with this ascendant placement. And when we were reading it with Love and Alex last week, we were just laughing because he's doing this exact thing right now. So favorable activities is real estate transactions, property management,
That's crazy.
which he's doing right now, managing contracts and agreements, um, owning vehicles or acquiring vehicles will help neutralizing karma, which is
Okay.
interesting.
We can do some more of that for sure.
Embracing holistic therapies, which is why you are drawn to the healing realms. Practicing meditation or yoga for well being will also neutralize your karma.
Yoga.
Um, this is so funny. Participating in media events and public appearances helps neutralize your karma. It's like, oh, okay. I'm exactly where I need to be. Um, Exploring travel and travel will help you neutralize your karma. So these are a few things that can of many that he can do to neutralize his karma. What will be unsupportive for karma is having arguments, um, new beginnings, or new beginnings in the sense that maybe starting a new beginning in something, maybe you have to just already be a part of something. It says buying clothes and jewelry, which is funny because love buys all of his clothes and jewelry. And domestic activities are unfavorable for karma. It also
Let
says
me
getting
out of this body. I'm out.
And then the last thing is getting involved in lawsuits or engaging in lawsuits is unfavorable for
Oh,
karma.
is this favorable for somebody?
Some people, yeah. I mean,
Oh my.
maybe that's why
Okay. Interesting.
they're called to. Maybe it's because they're in justice work and they
Hmm.
are, it's favorable for them to be involved in lawsuits. Maybe it's not them being the on the defense, but it's the other way around. Who knows? So depending on that.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, so it's that's why I see things as like just these different layers and dials and puzzle pieces that are moving, because there's so many ways in which you can self illuminate certain things, and we can laugh about it, or you can, be pensive about it and contemplate it more, what we need to work on. But those are just, there's a few examples between moon and ascendant.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think I already shared about Jupiter, so that was another thing that I like to look at for people, is their ruling planets.
Yeah. So, as you know, for me, I'm just like, okay, I've been studying A Course in Miracles for a while, and it's just like, this is just, I'm following a path, right? I am very surrendered to whatever shows up in my life normally, and I'm very good at just allowing. Yeah, which is super interesting, and yeah, I feel like I am on track. And this is why it's like, it's already done, right? Like, imagine I resisted all this stuff, right? Like, my life would be just in chaos all the time because I resist the fact that I am this fire person. Imagine I'm like, force myself to go surfing and do cold plunges, like all those things. I'm just like, yeah, I had a swimming pool for 2.5 years. I went into it one time, and like here and there, I'm like, okay, I'll swim and whatever, but just not a big water person. I don't go into the ocean because of sharks and whatever. Just like, there's just a lot of things that keep me away from water. So, but I'm always attracted to fire. I can sit in front of fire for a really long time, and yeah, it's amazing. So, we can take some questions and shares. I think we'll kind of maybe pause the education side of this for now, and maybe we'll do like a couple series of this conversation. Samsara and I just like, yeah, we get to do this, and then that was like on Wednesday when we decided this, or whatever day, and we didn't really even have time to like prepare or talk about this, so we just kind of jumped right into it. Thanks, Karen, for joining us. Samsara, you can put your like contact in there. I really want people to, work with you, like, work with her to do your reading. It's so worth it. And, she's just super epic the way she'll go through all of that with you. So you want to put it
Yeah, I'm
in the
going to
chat.
put my details at the bottom. For those of you that have Instagram, you can follow me at almondize or at Rituals of Samsara. And
I've been
then
trying
I'm
to
also,
tag you. I just can't, like, I'm like, what's your Instagram name? I think you like changed it from last time. So if you want to just put it in the chat though.
yeah, I'm writing it down, and then I'm also going to write my email for those of you that don't use Instagram. So you can.
Pro tip. She's in the WhatsApp chat, guys.
Oh, you can also.
Pro
Yes,
tip.
I'm in the ACIM WhatsApp chat, so you can send me a direct message on there.
That's for the pro tip. That's for people that are actually in there. So, yeah. Who's got some thoughts, questions? Things you want to add to this. I know so many people are like already have a little bit of this background, and I just wanted to bring it home, bring it together. That this is, again, not something separate. right? When we have this conversation about different teachings, right? Whether it's A Course of Miracles or Vedic or Christianity or whatever, it's about your own internal guidance, right? It's about becoming aware of these things and how do you navigate the world using these tools. And the goal really is always the same. The goal is to move closer to God or to your calling or to love, whatever you want to call that, right? So, and also to release fear, release the resistances and the fears, and to remember who the heck you are, right? It's remembering, it's releasing fear, it's remembering who you are, and move closer to the divine, to God, and to your purpose. Or the Course says to love, right? I think everything really, when we say that all things lead to love, we can feel the truth in that. We can feel that love encompasses all things. Like, oh my God, there is a truth to it. Even my whole life, the things that I thought were bad for me actually were the greatest things that could have possibly happened. So all things have been showing you already up to this moment that it's all been leading to love. And if you haven't seen that yet, it means it's still on its way, right? So those are just great, great things. Okay, Donna, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for that. So I have a question about karma and disease. Like, how does, people that have diseases, what is their karma especially like that would cause something like that?
I think I heard it was about the karma of diseases. Is that what it
You didn't
was?
hear what I said?
Yeah, the karma of diseases, yeah.
Yeah, karma and disease.
Yeah, so sometimes actually when you read a chart, especially when you're with a really good astrologer, they can predict certain life events and know if death or disease and things like that are to come. So some, at least from the Vedic perspective, some diseases are a result of karma from a past life in relationship to health issues. So sometimes it's like it's unavoidable to reroute yourself out of disease. So there are some things that are like that. It could be, thinking about it from a hereditary perspective, like that would be prarabdha karma. So it could be things as a result from a past life. Then there's also, as I was saying earlier, kriyamana karma. So there could be diseases that come because of present actions. Maybe there's lack of exercise, maybe there's not correct nutrition, or there's like emotional stress. And so it's diseases come from that because of the present actions, but there's definitely things that are from past lifetime. And then there's also the mental and emotional types of karma, like unresolved things with anger, resentment, or fear. And then it results as manifesting into the body as illness. And sometimes when I say disease, I think of dis-ease. Maybe some of you have heard that before. And it's because of the emotional aspects or the mental aspects that haven't been dealt yet, and then it just manifests as that. So it depends on specific charts, how and why disease or illness may manifest. It could be past life actions, hereditary aspects of it within your karmic blueprint, or it's the current actions of this lifetime. And I'm curious what you would say about it from an ACIM perspective.
So, of course, not to bypass any of that stuff, right? But as to right perspective, which is if we are not our body, right? If you really think about it, the Course says your lesson is that, first of all, there is no beginning and ending. There is no birth and death. If there is no death, then I am not my body. If I am not my body, then what is a disease, right? So first, to kind of get to that place, like, what's the resistance to disease? Like, what is the preference that we have, right? The way love is easy for those with no preferences, for those that believe that God's preference is above my preference. The goal is peace. So can I have peace with the disease? And oftentimes when you have peace with the disease seems to dissipate or transform into something else, into another thing, right? So this is like the mindset is the shifting of our relationship to our body and who we really are. Because the disease itself, like our idea of what that means, like diabetes or what, these things, like, okay, it just shows you there is a way of life that maybe, like you said, in today's karmic, like in present life karmic things that you're doing, maybe it's just more exercise, maybe it's more, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the thinking is, can I bring internal peace to myself around whether this disease is going to affect my life or not, or it's going to kill me or not, like to go beyond that. Right. And it's really challenging because the ego is going to bring you back like, oh my God, look at this life that you have to live. It's so it's hard, it's stressful, whatever. But usually our ideas of like frustration or stress is actually harder in our minds than in our bodies. We actually can like cope and deal with things in a very accepting and surrendered way, right? And so I guess I can share a mentor of mine, and he passed, but he's like a mentor through a mentor, I guess. And Diego Palma, right? Like Letty's teacher, when he was sick, like he wasn't like, oh my God, I need to go get treatment and just constantly do chemo and all that. Who knows what would have happened anyways, but he lived his life to the fullest of the greatest way he can continue to contribute his gifts, using even his sickness as a way to teach others. And from there he was very into he was very inspired and inspiring at the same time, all the way to the final moment that he passed from this life. And how many people celebrated it and the lessons remained. It's like the story of Christ beyond the body, right? Like all the way to the last moment when the body is gone, you still kept your sovereignty about your relationship to God and to the divine and to your body and to your brothers and sisters, that all minds are joined in one. And ultimately, when we can see that there is no separation, then we can't possibly be our body. And if we can't be our body, then this disease is really nothing. To make the disease something, the Course says, is an attack on God. Now, obviously, that is a very high level way to think, because the attack on God is not the way that we say, oh my God, we're fighting God, but it's the denial of who we really are as a one collective consciousness, one extension idea of God. So yeah, it's very hard so it will be really hard to like connect to what I'm saying there, and then using our physical world to create the evidence around it. This is a game of perspective. And can I have peace? Yes, you can. Right? Yes, you can have peace. And that's the whole game for A Course in Miracles. Your prerequisite to returning home is just peace. It's nothing else. Right? So then in the moment, like, can I have peace? Yes, you can. How do we have peace? Perhaps you used all the different tools, and whatever is going to bring you there. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that you are not your body. And when you have finally come to terms with that, what does that mean? All right, the Course says, everything that you think you are, your identity, is an idea to be undone. Oh my God, that seems very scary from the ego's perspective. What do you mean? I'm Alex. I'm the one that alchemizes things, and I use fire, and I teach A Course in Miracles, and I'm a leader in this and that. What do you mean I have to undo that? Well, that is great, all the things you do, but it's really, you're doing a bunch of nothing. because we haven't gone anywhere. The problem never really happened, right? So all of this stuff that we're doing to try to heal it is part of the game and part of the dream that we're playing in. And not to say that to invalidate any of the stuff, but from the Course's perspective is a very much like you haven't gone anywhere, right? The Course says Adam fell asleep and never anywhere does it say that he woke up. So then the entire thing could just be a dream, including all the tools that we had to create to solve a problem that never actually existed. And so this is ultimate high level. And so this is probably why part of what Samsara was reading was like, Alex is always trying to leave the body and cut the cords with the corporal, right? Because I am very much attracted to that thinking, and personally for me, that I feel like is where I'm going. And now I'm starting to be able to reach and understand and feel deeper into all the different teachings and understanding it a little bit more, so that because I'm here, right? I'm still here in this body, so might as well let's play with these tools. So yeah, that's my thoughts. It was very long. What was the question? Disease, yeah.
Just karma, disease, just thinking about some people.
Wait, couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. Wait,
Thank you for that.
I can't hear you for some reason now. Did you hit something? What'd you do?
Oh, now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the question was about illness,
Oh,
and I
that's
love
right.
that you brought that. No, and it's totally related to the body. But I guess like once you have awareness of that and you look at your karmic imprints and blueprints, it's like, okay, what's right action towards this? And I love the ACIM perspective. And also, and it's not just with illness, but it's any karmic challenges that you are facing. From higher perspective, uh, it's a chance for growth, it's a chance for transformation, and also an opportunity for healing. So that is could be the role or the perspective you choose of how you work with illness or disease, just as you brought up Diego Poma. And
Yeah.
beautiful soul. I also have a friend that is who is also a Vedic practitioner, and she is going through cancer right now. And she's been in that battle for like the last year and a half, and she's still choosing light. She's still choosing it as a way to give teachings and have it transform her. So yes, within this material realm, within the body, it really, really sucks. Um, and there's a lot of complex emotions and grievances that can come with that, but they can also be a teacher in many, many ways. So if you can zoom out even more and look at it more from a soul's evolutionary perspective, then you don't have to identify with that. So
Awesome.
good question.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, you got a question? You're gonna kind of take us out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of just an observation. Some of the things to me, this was just great to participate in this. I actually do a reading every year, astrology reading, so like a blueprint, and it's just making me think more like, I kind of joke when I do it. I say it's my once a year, having my guy just talk to me. And some things I find are interesting, other things I laugh. I say it's like once a year I pay it for an hour of who knows what he's going to say. But it is astrology. But you're making me wonder, like, I wonder if he does follow. So we did it like a prenatal chart, and then I do one every year. But there is free will, right? And then the other thing I was just going to say is I love listening to the way that you guys speak about this. To me, it's so clear. But if I had to try to repeat this to someone else, I wouldn't even be able to, like, say a word. And anyhow, I also think it's very esoteric. And I don't know. Those are just all things going through my head. I'm like, even if I wanted to teach some of this, I don't even know how I would say it. So, one, thank you for, I guess, getting your downloads and sharing them. And I do a reading or chart reading every year. But I'll have to pay more attention this year about some of the things that he is saying. So anyhow, I just wanted to share some of that. So there's really no question in there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, and a lot of this also comes from just like Samsara is deep in her practice all the time. You know, she has her ritual, she does everything in just like a very kind of also like slow pace and you know, honoring like every moment of it. So she's very devotional to her practice. So like understanding this becomes much easier, and it takes time too, right? So like yeah, just by hearing what we're sharing here, there's no way to just go and just like kind of spew it back out, right? You know, but if you listen to this, you know, 20 times, 30 times, and we have episodes like this, and you know, now you're taking your readings more seriously, you start connecting the dots, like you'll be able to do it no problem. And you would do it in such a Michelle way that like it would impact so many people that couldn't even hear what me and Samsara are even talking about, because it's really interesting. You know, like as I was posting about this, you know, I had somebody message me on Instagram or on Facebook. They're like, Alex, as a pastor, I must warn you about the following and promoting Eastern religions and occult, which masquerades as astrology. You know, I want to sit down and discuss with you about this. You know, so it's like, you know, there's so much fear that people have around things, and it's like, this must be the way, but everything is the way. And you know, I look forward to having a conversation with this pastor, and yeah, it'll be cool. I have no idea what that's gonna look like. Go ahead, Fraser.
Yeah, so like on that exact subject, coming from the religion that I came from, when I started to practice different ways of looking at spirituality and actually looking into where all these religions are actually interconnected, there's an interconnectedness that a lot of people don't look at. And they're like, it's just this way, but it's actually so much more. So there's that. And also for Samsara and for anybody else on people with cancer or different issues, I highly recommend checking out the book by Tony Robbins. It's called Life Force. It's about various different ways of healings. And a lot of it goes to this new age technology with stem cell research. So I highly recommend that book for anybody that wants to help a friend look at alternatives to even chemo.
Yeah.
I love that you recommended that, because as soon as you said that, I also thought of the book Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. And it's very, very similar in the alternatives and just having like right belief and thinking and the environmental factors as well. So that's cool. I'll have to check out that Tony Robbins book too.
You know, and here's the thing too. He is also right? Whoever is in this like narrow vision, narrow tunnel, because all roads still lead there. There is, oh my God, all of this leads there. Also, his road also leads there. You know, or her road leads there. So it's not about like who's wrong or who's right. It's just about being able to see and understand that all roads lead to the same place. Whether you only see one road and you stay on one road, that's fine, right? But if they were to come at you and say, this is the way, awesome, tell me more about your way, right? Versus like, no, there's all these different ways. It's like, cool, tell me what's your way. So that I'm excited to have that conversation, because this is how I normally try to, and like Samsara said, like I don't, what is it, disputes or arguments, like that's favorable for me, you know, like discussions, right? So it's favorable for me. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'm excited for this. But it's the awareness first that in the beginning, it seems like I'm like, oh, this person is saying this, and I'm trying to, you know, kind of I don't know, ridicule or judge this person. No, that's not the case at all. All right. So I want to showcase so that everybody can see that our natural inclination is to say, oh man, this person is so like small minded or narrow minded to think that this is the only path, but then to illuminate that, yeah, that is the path also, you know. And so that's the point of sharing that. So yeah, Tasnova, okay, you are the last question. You will take us out. Thank you so much. Of course, my little sister here comes and brings us out.
Oh my goodness, this is the best conversation ever. I'm like so amazed that, first of all, thank you both for co-creating this together by just saying yes. Alex being open to opening it this way, and Samsara, of course, like all the things you have been and done to speak so eloquently and clear and just, yeah, brings so much curiosity and delight to this experience for all of us. I am kept wanting to share for that reason, and I'm glad we're closing it on that topic. Because I grew up in a religion, Islam, that, you know, and my culture would be very much highly connected to this Vedic teaching and lineage, but I was lost from it for many generations. Yeah, I always had the call. I always thought it was weird that, you know, the religion I grew up with didn't really acknowledge the roots, and I was like, this is weird, but okay. And I've also been fascinated with like Kuroli Baba's lineage, who acknowledges the Christ, and there is this lineage that acknowledges the one from before and the one coming after. And I love that this conversation can happen where I can really see the two lineages I'm very passionate about, which is, you know, the Indian heritage, Vedic, etc. And of course, the miracle is coming together. And also a little reminder, which thank you, Alex. I'm glad I waited to share after everybody, to remember all roads lead home to the truth with the capital T, including Islam, which I get to continuously karmically relate to because I have my beloved family of birth there. And I just wanted to say personally from this experience is that I'm having more renewed faith that my calling is my calling, and the lineages that call me is a true calling that I don't have to have like guilt or shame over. You know, I've always been this conversation of like why, you know, and I don't necessarily know if I need to know. I just know that I'm in the right place and I feel really good about it. And yeah, and I'm really just feeling a renewed trust of my story, including growing up in an Islamic lineage. You know, like there is a beloved divine work for me to do as the person who grew up in that family. I'm having more faith about who I get to be for that. And yeah, and also just go into more of the interest of the Vedic teachings. Like I think I've been holding back a little bit of learning about that heritage of mine because I don't have any, you know, ancestors to talk to in the physical body. I'm excited to explore. I'm really, really excited to explore, excited to connect with you, Samsara, and get a reading and just open my heart to these teachings in a big way. And of course, like dive even deeper with the Course in Miracles so I can feel the harmony and unity of the truth, you know, speak to me in many colorful languages. So really wanted to share that. It's not a question, just a deep gratitude to the both of you for being such incredible pillars of light and so much wisdom. Yeah, love you both.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And, you know, it's so cool because as we just like shed like our resistance to our past. I was so resistant to the Catholic faith. I could never open up a Course in Miracles, right? And the fact that I was able to heal that relationship changed everything for me. And so perhaps for you, like as you're opening that back up for yourself and the, you know, Islamic lineage, like this is going to heal your relationship to your family, to your ancestors, like really becoming tapped into like who you really are. And that's exciting. It's really cool. Yeah. So I'm sorry if you want to add anything else to take us out. And, you know, we went a little bit longer, but I think it was totally worth it. And there will definitely be another of this at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a lot covered, and there's even more that can be uncovered. And, you know, if you all feel very called to this work, I really encourage you to follow your curiosity and see where it will take you. Because and probably the reason why some people are like, don't follow these esoteric teachings or it's the occult. Yes, it is from fear, but also when you start to understand these types of things, it's a form of self empowerment because you're self illuminating different aspects of yourself and you're learning how to call back your power. You're also learning how to see with more clarity and not see through clouded eyes or the disillusionment of samsara or maya. Um, so it's I would say just follow your curiosity. And another thing is, if you ever do work with an astrologer, there are some people that don't want to work with astrologers because the way that they use their languaging is it feels almost disempowering, or this is my fate, or they're like kind of subscribing you to a box. And really, what astrology is supposed to do is actually to liberate you. So, a good astrologer, or the way you would study astrology, it has to be, at least in an ethical standpoint, um, coming from a place of solution and liberation and self empowerment. So, yeah, take what you will in this. If it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, you can throw it out the window, no worries. But I hope that it provides a lot of luminosity for all of you in whatever path that you take.
Yeah, that was super epic what you shared right there, because it's the same thing that we talk about love and fear and the ego and the Holy Spirit, right? Like, if you are studying it and sharing it like it's going to be a box, you're subscribing somebody to a set thing, or if it's about liberating, like the way you study it and the way you explain it, those are kind of two ways, right? And then also the way that we listen to it. For a long time, like that's how I felt every time somebody was trying to give me astrology reading and this and that, and I really just felt like it was a box. One, I don't know, maybe that person had that, but two, I also didn't have the ears to listen, right? I also had a judgment that shut it down. So, you know, you somehow were able to speak through and get through to me in that way, and yeah, I think what you said right there, like, kind of just is the mic drop. This is supposed to be for liberation and to free us. So yeah, amazing. Okay, well, Jamal, one last question, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
I wanted to ask, is it possible for a complete evil person to turn into a really good positive person?
Oh, can you say that one more time?
Can a completely evil person turn into a positive person?
Have you ever seen the movie Cloud Atlas? I highly, highly recommend it because, first of all, it's a book, and you're following five different or six different souls' journeys, and they all keep reappearing in different eras, from like the 1700s to the 1900s, the 70s, the 90s, 2000s, all the way up into the future. And I like to use that example, and these words can be very subjective, evil and so and so. They're just things that people, maybe within the realms of their karma, that's just the circumstances that put them in there, and it just seems to be evil. But if you follow Tom Hanks's character, he's supposedly a very, very evil guy at the beginning of his soul's journey. But after a millennia passes, so he reincarnates over and over and over and over again, and his character gets better and better and better in different forms. And you find, this is kind of like a spoiler alert for the movie, but I still recommend watching it. It's called Cloud Atlas, Michelle. Cloud Atlas. I'd watch this movie. You find that Tom Hanks's character, he's at the super far future after the apocalypse has happened. He has a choice. He's like either haunted by his demons from the things of the karmas he did in his last life, or he's going to follow right action. And he does follow right action, and he does transform, and he does become a good being, so to speak, if we want to label things as good and evil. So, kind of like what we were saying in the Vedic astrology, everything's happening on its own time and pace. It's already written in the stars. It might take several lifetimes, but not looking from the corporal or the material perspective that's going to happen within one lifetime. Maybe, But sometimes those karmas will be worked through several lifetimes, and then they become liberated. But I'm curious about ACIM perspective with that.
Well, first of all, what is good and what is evil, right? That's what we were sharing, because all evil really is the unwoke version of you pursuing your purpose, which is being an extension of God. So, I think all stories, all superhero stories, like it's just all this journey that we go on from the unconscious to the conscious. Once we become conscious, like there is no being evil, right? And are the people that crucified Christ, like, are they evil, right? And it's just people don't know what they're doing because they don't know what they don't know, and so we can access compassion and forgiveness right off the bat, right? Like, so an evil becomes like we determine what's evil, what's good, what's bad. So actually, the Course says we have to dissolve our karma through forgiveness and through non-judgment. Not because we shouldn't judge, but that we don't even have the capacity to judge. We have no idea. It's like, can I judge? And I have to know all the dimensions of the past, the present, the future, right? Past life, present, future effects. Like, we have no idea what things will affect other things. And so all we can do is just give it over. So, yeah. Anyways, we're a little bit over the time already, so I just want to begin to wrap this up. And thank you, Samsara, for this amazing connection and our collaboration in this space. I think it was just like my life has been pushing me towards this direction. These calls, like, we've been talking about bringing heaven and earth together, and the yin and the yang, and I feel like and I was calling somebody forth to kind of co-create something with. And so, yeah, you definitely stepped into that super beautifully. And, we both answer life's call, right? Like, there's a God calling, and we both said yes. And so this also goes out to everybody else too, right? Like, I want to be doing a lot more collaborations and showcasing more people and highlighting people this year. This is my year. The word is empowering. So I get to, support you guys on all of your journey as well, if you're willing. And we want to have profound conversations like this. What are your gifts? And I'm looking for someone to also be a co-host in, in my Course in Miracles, podcast / YouTube that we're going to relaunch, rebrand, So looking for all that. And that's about it. Let's see, what are all the chats going on? Yeah. All right. That's it. That's all, folks. Thank you all so much for being here. It was epic. Thank you, Samsara. Love you so much. And enjoy Alaska and Moon Dance. And I will talk to you when you return from your journey.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you, everybody in ACIM. You guys had super awesome questions. Hopefully I'll hear from you in the beyond. So thank you again.
Reach out to her for sure. She's in the ACIM chat. Get your reading. Do your thing with her. She's probably really busy for the next, for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How long are you busy for?
There's a tiny bit of time that I have this week if people want to do readings. And then I'll be off grid for a week and a half. And then I'll be back online again for anyone that's interested. So.
All right. It's epic, guys. Do it. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Much blessings. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Much love. Much love. Thank you all for being here. See y'all later.
Bye.